My name is Regina Anderson, and for the past 15 years, that name has basically meant family embarrassment. While my sister stacked Harvard diplomas and six-figure offers like trophies, I spent last week teaching 5-year-olds how to finger paint. And tonight, at her graduation celebration, my parents presented her with a brand new Tesla and a $13 million Manhattan penthouse. Right there on stage, in front of 200 people. Where are you watching from? And what time is it where you are? Comment below, so I know who's sharing this moment with me tonight. Guess I should start with honesty. My name isn't Grace. It's Regina. But that night, when my mother summoned me under the glittering lights of One Vanderbilt Sky Hall, I didn't feel like Regina. I felt like every disappointment they'd ever pretended I was. A placeholder. A shadow. The air shimmered with champagne bubbles and violins. Victoria, my sister, stood in the middle of the room, looking exactly like the heir she'd always been groomed to be. Her skin practically glowed under the chandelier, like she was born to be admired. My parents listed her accomplishments like they were reading a royal proclamation. Harvard scholarship, a job that paid more than I'd seen in a decade, and now a $26 million penthouse in West Chelsea with a rooftop garden and skyline view. The applause was thunderous. Meanwhile, I stood in the back gripping a glass of water because I didn't have the money to replace my thrift store dress if someone spilled on me. Smile, Regina, I whispered to myself. Just keep smiling. Eventually they'll stop looking. Then my father's voice cut through the music. And because we value family peace, we've arranged a special gift for Regina as well. The entire room rotated. Toward me. A server approached holding a silver tray. Not with keys or contracts or an award, but a single folder. Family harmony. Waver. My father gave me that polished, performative smile. The one he uses when he thinks generosity can be treated like negotiation. It's only a formality, sweetheart, he said. Sign this, and let your sister handle the estate. We'll make sure you're taken care of. Taken care of. Like a dependent. Like a burden. A Mont Blanc pen touched my palm, smooth, cold, perfect, and every muscle in me locked. Not because I didn't expect this, but because I'd spent my whole life conditioned to be obedient, to shrink, to comply. Survival by being small. I took a slow step backward, pressing myself behind one of the enormous glass columns. The city spread below like glittering mockery. And that's when I saw it. The small QR code on every place card, witness log, scan to sign in. I scanned it. A live digital register opened. Number of attendees, exact timestamps, verification signatures. My pulse stopped racing. It became steady, precise. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like a ghost in my own story. I felt aware. I thought about the life I'd built. Not glamorous, not expensive. The life of a preschool art teacher. My clothes smell like paint and lemon disinfectant. My paycheck barely stretches to rent. But the artwork my students create hangs in children's hospitals. And parents cry in front of it because it makes them feel hope. That's not money, that's value. The kind that lasts longer than applause. When I was 12, my grandfather Thomas told me something I didn't understand until this moment. Impact is the only currency that survives. And suddenly, standing there holding a pen designed to legally erase me, his words burned in my mind for a split second. I considered signing, not because I agreed, but because surrender would have been easier. That's what people like me are trained to do. Keep quiet. Stay soft. Avoid the storm. That's the unspoken law of survivors. Silence equals safety. Every time I let a cruel comment slide, every time I swallowed humiliation and called it maturity, It wasn't wisdom. It was fear dressed up as Grace. The violin's sword. Victoria laughed brightly on stage. My mother snapped her fingers impatiently, demanding I return with the pen. The Mont Blanc gleamed under the lights, waiting to claim me, but something inside me had shifted. Maybe it was the hum of the witness system in my pocket. Maybe it was the memory of a little boy in my class who finally said blue after months of silence. I looked down at the folder again and thought, if I sign this, I'll teach my students that staying quiet is noble. And that's the one lie I refused to pass on. I walked back toward the table, my heartbeat calm, my voice steady. Not tonight, I said. The words weren't loud, but they carried. I saw my father's smile falter, saw my mother's fingers tighten around her glass. The violins didn't stop, but the melody broke just enough for me to breathe. I didn't need to raise my voice. The night was long, and for once I had patience on my side. My father's eyes narrowed. What do you mean? Not tonight. The crowd hushed, pretending to sip their drinks while waiting for the spectacle to continue. My mother's diamond bracelet caught the light as she waved the pen toward me. Don't be difficult, Regina. It's a simple formality. A simpler formality that would erase me. Victoria leaned into her mic, her tone syrupy and cruel. Come on, Regi. Some of us are born to build empires. Some of us teach finger painting. The laughter that followed was quiet, but sharp enough to draw blood. I didn't answer. I let the silence hang, heavy and awkward. That's when I noticed a movement near the stage. A man, maybe in his 70s, in a grey suit, holding a leather folder against his chest. His gaze met mine, calm but certain, like he'd been waiting for this exact moment. Excuse me, Hesed, stepping forward before Miss Regina signs anything. There's a matter that cannot wait. My father stiffened. Who are you? Samuel Whitman, the Mansade, executive of Thomas Anderson Sester. Your father's attorney for 40 years. The name hit my chest like a heartbeat I'd forgotten was mine. Grandfather's lawyer. This is a private celebration. My father snapped. Whatever you're here for, make an appointment. Samuel shook his head gently. Thomas' instructions were very specific. The contents of his legacy codicil were revealed only when both granddaughters had shown their true character. My mother forced a brittler. This is absurd. The estate's already been handled. Samuel finished. Yes, I've read the documents your husband filed. Unfortunately, those weren't the real ones. Whispers rippled through the crowd like wind through dry leaves. Someone gasped. Someone else began recording on their phone. Samuel placed the folder on the podium and opened it with quiet ceremony. Inside, the paper gleamed under the light like a verdict. Thomas Anderson's will include a clause, he said, his voice steady. The state passes to the granddaughter who demonstrates genuine service to humanity measured, not by degrees or income, but by verifiable positive impact on others' lives. I froze around me. Perplexed glances. Victoria scoffed. You can't be serious. How do you measure that? Samuel smiled faintly. Your grandfather thought of that. He required third-party validation letters, awards, institutional recognition, and he also created safeguards against coercion. He reached into the folder again and pulled out a single page. This, he said, is the witness clause. Every guest here tonight has been logged via the QR system. Your print's event planner implemented. If coercion occurs in public view, that clause activates. A trust fund, $30 million, transfers immediately to deputy being coerced. Earmarked for charitable impact. The LED wall behind him lit up. A counter appeared. Witnesses logged. 174. My mother went pale. My father tried to smile. That's ridiculous. There's no coercion here. Samuel turned to me. Miss Regina, may I ask, Were you asked to sign a waiver of inheritance rights tonight? I nodded slowly. Yes. Were you pressured to do so in front of an audience? My father cued in. Oh, for God's sake. Samuel raised his hand. Simple. Yes or no? Yes. Their counter flickered. Witnesses logged .175. You could feel the shift in Thea. The party once glowing and perfect started to smell of fear. Samuel looked at me kindly. Then perhaps you should hear the rest before deciding whether to sign. He opened another document. My grandfather's handwriting filled the margins. Neat and deliberate. To my granddaughters he'd written, I left not only wealth, but a question. What did you do with your light? While others swear in the dark, I felt the words like a pulse in my throat. Victoria was fuming now. This is insane. He was old, confused. Lauded you. Sure, but this is manipulation. Samuel didn't even flinch. Your grandfather left very little to chance. Miss Victoria, he also left records. Independent audits of each of your contributions to society. Would you like to read them? She fell silent. Mimother reached for her glass, but her hand trembled too much to lift it. Samuel continued. The cottle will be read fully in the next session. But for now, I suggest no document be signed tonight for everyone's sake. My father started to protest, but the LED counter blinkered again. Witnesses logged 180, and for the first time that night. I smiled, not out of triumph, but relief because I finally understood what my grandfather meant when he said, impact is the only currency that survives. The power had just shifted, and none of them even realized it yet. The ballroom went completely still. Even the quartet stopped mid-note, their bows trembling over the strings. I could feel 200 eyes flicking between me and Samuel, waiting to see if I would crumble or explode. But I didn't do either. I just exhaled slow, steady, and felt the ground tilt in my favor for the first time in my life. Samuel's voice was calm, but carried like a bell. Your grandfather's scodel also references a dossier and evidence package documenting verified impact by both granddaughters. One Habitos records here. He gestured to that projector operator. The LED wall brightened and suddenly my name appeared. Regina Anderson. Verified contribums. A soft murmur rolled throughout the room as the screen filled with pages. Certificates, letters, photographs. The first was a Department of Education commendation. Then a hospital thank you letter from a pediatric therapy ward. Another image. An art classroom filled with color. Children with disabilities, smiling, paint streaking their aprons. Samuel read aloud, founder of the Art Heals Initiative. Service over 500 children across Brooklyn. Documented results include speech breakthroughs, emotional regulation, and increased confidence. Recognized by the city's Board of Education for innovative inclusion programs. My throat closed. I didn't even know those letters had been saved. 14 selective mutism recoveries. Samuel continued, and 3 suicide prevention confirmed by medical supervisors. The ballroom went silent except for the hum of the projector. My mother's face was drained of color. My father's jaw flexed as if chewing glass. Then Thiel shifted. Victoria Anderson. Verified contribums. Her portfolio looked thinner. Harvard degrees, love review articles, corporate internships at the bottom of the screen. One line flickered. Community service hours 40 mandatory. Someone in the back actually laughed. Short and awkward. Victoria spun toward Samuel. You're making her look like a saint. You don't even know me. He lifted an eyebrow. Your grandfather knew both of you better than you realize. He arranged independent audits, sealed and notarized if you'd like. We can play his video testimony. No. My father barked. This circus has gone far enough. Then tell me, Samuel said evenly. Why you attempted to hide Death's code all 10 years ago? A gasp ran throughout the crowd. Phones were out now, recording everything. Samuel reached into his folder and held up another document. Original will filed by Gregory and Melissa Anderson. Missing pages, signatures misaligned. And yet, the storage record at our firm shows your handwriting on a request to replace damaged documents. That's forgery, Mr. Anderson. My father's face blanched. You can't prove that. Samuel tapped their folder. Actually, I can. There are independent witnesses and digital logs. But let's stay focused. Miss Regina, you were asked to sign a waiver tonight. Do you still wish to proceed? I looked down at the Mont Blanc still resting on the podium. The same pen that had been mean to erase me. No, I said quietly. I think you'll wait to hear what my grandfather had to say. Samuel nodded once, approving. My mother tried to regain her poise. Thomas loved drama. This is just another one of his games. Perhaps Samuel said. But his games have consequences. Then he faced the audience. Ladies and gentlemen, you've now all become official witnesses to a pending inheritance review. Everything you've seen and heard tonight is protected under a state law. Please note that live witness count currently stands at Heglinst at the LED. 204. The crowd buzzed. You could feel the electricity crackle. Perfect people in designer clothes, realizing they'd stumbled into a morality play instead of a gala. I caught Victoria's eye, she looked pale, furious. But beneath that, terrified, I'd never seen her afraid more. That's when it hit me. The fight was no longer about money or status. It was about exposure. For years, they built their identity on polish and performance. And tonight, every layer of it was peeling away under the lights. I glanced at Samuel. What happens now? Hesmelled faintly. Now, Miss Regina, the truth does what it's always done. It writes its own ending. And for the first time in my life, I believed him. The hush that followed was almost holy. No one moved. No one even breathed. Their chandeliers hummed above us like the sound of truth vibrating through glass dots. Samuel straightened the papers. Before we proceed, I should make something clear. 10 years ago, this family attempted to replace the original will with a simplified version, one that conveniently transferred everything to Mr. Scene, Gregory Anderson. The forensic analysis confirms alteration. Timestamp mismatches and unauthorized not or IIZA, someone near the front whispered. Forgery. The word hung in the air like incense. Victoria's voice sliced through it. You can't humiliate us like this. Samuel didn't even look at her. I'm not humiliating anyone. I'm reading facts. He tapped the folder again. Your grandfather created redundant storage. 3 law firms, multiple safes. Had predicted tonight almost exactly the moment coercion began. The true codicil activated. The LED counter pulsed again. 212 witnesses. My mother's hand trembled against her champagne glass. Thomas never trusted anyone. She murmured. Samuel gave a thin smile. On secondary, he trusted one person. Regina. The lights dimmed slightly, and that projector switched slides. Photos of my classroom appeared. The chipped paint. The easels lined with tiny hands at work. Color exploding across the frames. Children with autism painting storms of light. A mother hugging me in tears. I felt my knees go weak. He kept these. He documented everything. Samuel sagently. Every award, every program yobbled, every child who found their voice. He wanted proof that character doesn't need applause to exist. The room blurred. I could hear murmurs around me. She did all that. A teacher. How did the family not know? Then Samuel's tone hardened again. Mr. and Mrs. Anderson. The account logs show that funds for the roadster were withdrawn from an estate sub-account marked contingency. Would you like to explain that? Gregor's lips parted, but no words came. Melissa's diamond earring had twisted backward, glinting like a shard. Samuel sighed softly. The document tampering. The misuse of assets. It's all preserved. This coddle isn't just moral judgment. It's legal fact. My father tried to recover. Voice rough. This isn't about money. It's about respect. About who's capable of managing the legacy. And yet, Samuel said, your father disagreed. His clause defines legacy as measurable impact on human lives. He turned to me. Regina, your grandfather believed your classroom was more valuable than any penthouse. One builds portfolios. One builds the future belongs to Thelata. All I couldn't speak for years I'd replayed his voice in my head. That gentle certainty that I was enough. Hearing it echoed now in front of Favrion, who'd called me less, felt like a resurrection. Victoria let out a shaky laugh. So what? She wins because she plays with paint. That's your standard. Samuel didn't flinch. Art therapy that prevents suicides and teaches non-verbal children to communicate. Qualifies as impact in any moral system. I know. Laughter rippled through the crowd again. Not mocking her this time, but approving a shift. The kind that topples empires quietly. My father's face hardened. We can contest this. Courts respect rationality, not sentimentality. Samuel looked almost amused. You country, that the codal includes video testimony. Notarized, time-stamped bit, and sealed with judicial aversit. Contesting would only amplify exposure. That word exposure hit him like a slap. He muttered something to Melissa. But before he could step away, a bright ping sounded from the LED wall. The system updated again. 220 witnesses. A message appeared. Live record archived. Transfer pending. Verification. Samuel has smiled. Once the witness log passes 200, the fund activates. The crowd gasped. Victoria whispered. Transfer. What transfer? The witness trigger fund. Samuel said, $30 million straight to the Brighter Hands Foundation. It's automatic. Melissa dropped her glass. The room froze. Violins silent. Air thick with panic. My heartbeat steadied. Just as Stephanie had rhythm. This was your grandfather's design. Samuel said he believed legacy is kindness that multiplies. For the first time looking at my family, I didn't feel small. I felt seen. I leaned into the microphone. Some build portfolios. Some build souls. My grandfather knew the difference. Their counter rose to 223. Everything they thought they owned began to shift. Photos and letters filled the screen. Testaments of real impact. Then voices rose. Parents of my students, families Regina had helped. Gratitude about the ballroom's perfect facade. Victoria shook her head. This isn't betrayal. Reality doesn't need permission, Samuel replied. My father tried to contain it. We can handle this privately. Privately? I said like when you are said from the estate. Privacy is how injustice hides. My silence had never been peace, only suppression. That cat doesn't mean weak. It means patient. The witness count hit 230. Transfer initiated. Gregory lunged. Samuel stepped back calmly and played Grandfather Thomas's final message. Regina understands legacy isn't what you keep, it's what you give. The video ended. Transfer confirmed. $30 million moved to Brighter Hands. My father stared at the floor. Melissa collapsed. It's done, I asked. Samuel nodded. You've inherited what matters. Proof you were never the weak one. I told that crowd. Success without purpose is noise. Kindness is never invisible. This time they applauded for me. Then came the last clause. The cumulative provision anyone who tried to coerce either forfeits their share. Unless they complete 2 years of real public service. Victoria trembled. Volunteer work. Yes, Samuel said. I stepped toward her. If you're willing, I'll help. This is what he wanted. She nodded. The legacy rewritten remained intact. Later, alone in the ballroom, I felt no revenge, only symmetry. Months passed. The mansion became an arts and therapy center. Victoria showed up daily, learning, softening, laughing with children. My parents volunteered on Wednesdays. Grandfather's portrait no wangs in a children's ward. Decorate with painted ties.